Hi, Gretchen. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Wafa. Thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
I'd love to hear about your career journey so far. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, actually, I've spent my career in marketing. I have had the opportunity to hold global CMO roles for several Fortune 100 financial services, insurance, fintech companies. And it's been all about building global marketing and communication teams. And really, if I think about it, it's it's kind of across a spectrum of strategic needs, ranging from GE Capital, where I worked for 16 years actually. And there it was about building marketing to fuel like hyper growth, rapid revenue growth. And after my time there, took what I learned, moved to First Data, and there was the global CMO. And it was all about building trust in the market and rapidly establishing a very recognized brand so that we could drive interest in an IPO, which we successfully executed at the end of 2015 with the largest IPO that year and raised $3 billion. Following my time at First Data, I went to Manulife, where I was also the global chief marketing officer. And again, there it was about building marketing to help drive the business transformation to be customer centric. Since then, left Manulife, moved back from Toronto. I'm living outside of New York now. And over the past couple of years have been doing consulting where I'm actually working with small to mid-sized companies, being kind of like a fractional CMO and an advisor, which has been super interesting over, especially these past couple of years with the pandemic and all the changes going on in the economy.
I mean, you definitely managed to build an impressive, successful career over the years. So, first question for you, what's your career journey from college to your first ever job? How did you get it? Was it an opportunity? Tell me more about your very first job.
So my very first job, actually, I started a company. I was in Paris, France. I had just finished a year of graduate work at the Institut d'études politiques and realized that Paris is super expensive. So I started teaching English to make some money. And as I got to do that, I kind of had the idea that there was a different or a better way to go about English teaching and ended up starting my own company. Went into kind of decided to be in a niche space of French companies who had recently done a merger or an acquisition with American companies and therefore had a C-suite that really needed to kind of buff up their English. And that was the group that I targeted and did really well. But for all of you who have worked in your own companies, I think the thing you'll find is you really need to be passionate about that space. And for me, language training was, it was an interesting thing to do. Like I said, Wafa, when I just getting out of school because didn't really have any other people knocking down my door. But it wasn't something I wanted to spend my life in. So when I had the opportunity to sell to a competitor after almost 3 years running the business, I kind of went for that opportunity and moved from training into what I thought would be and which was an amazing job working for the Department of Commerce at the US Embassy in Paris, helping other US companies set up operations and export into France.
It's interesting how you turned that strength of, hey, I'm an American studying in Paris into a business. Tell me more about the whole thought process of thinking, okay, I'm graduated now. I don't find a job, and instead of falling into this mindset of, oh, no one's hiring me. I don't know how to do a French resume. I don't have any contacts. I don't have a French network. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to focus on the one skill that I have for sure is to speak English because I'm American and turn it into this business and to make it super valuable in the sense that it's a bespoke solution, a bespoke service for companies. Tell me about that.
It was really a concours de circonstances. I needed to find something to do and to get paid for it. To your point, I didn't have any contacts. I didn't know any people. And I also didn't have the papers to work in France. So I said, okay, what are my options, right? If I want to stay, then I need to create my own opportunity. And I think that's kind of been a theme throughout my career, right? It's that I'm not going to let, I guess, the situation I'm in kind of define what I'm going to be or what I want to do. Like, I believe that it's in my, I don't want to say control, but it's up to me to kind of make the most of the situation. And so that's what I did with language training. You just can't give up, right? Like, it's not going to be perfect, and you're not going to have, the like exact awesome job you wanted maybe when you first get out of school, or even, whenever, right? And you need to think about, okay, but what are my unique skills, right? So like in that instance, I spoke English, right? Or, what is it that I'm bringing to the table that's different from everyone else, right? And I think that's a really important thing to know about yourself. And it's something that changes over time. Now, there are other things that differentiate me beyond, speaking English, right? And so I think it's something important to really understand kind of your personal value proposition as you move throughout your career, because that's how you can make things happen for yourself as well, right? It's knowing what you bring that is unique, that will help you convince others to help move you on your path for your career.
That was such a great example to just remember to start somewhere. And sometimes, when we're young, or honestly at any given stage, and I'm sure you can confirm that in your life, we seek outwards. We start looking for additional accreditations, additional MBAs, validation from elsewhere, or to start something new. We always wonder what's to add, more tombstones, credentials. Right. And sometimes the simplest answer is to just start within and look at what do you have right now in your roster? What are you capable already right now? Because there's value in it.
Wafa, look, you bring up a good point. Job descriptions are largely directional. Meaning, when we put them together with like, this is the hope of exactly what we want, exactly the person, exactly what they're going to do. And as a hiring manager, full well you are not going to get everything that you list down, but that's okay. It's aspirational. It's what you hope for. As a candidate, or as whether you're internal or external, and it's a promotion or you're seeking a new job, I think you have to approach it that way too. And you have to say, okay, they've asked for these 10 things, or there are these amount of responsibilities in the job, and I know how to do a certain number of responsibilities, but other ones would be new. Well, okay, that's okay. Like, come in and be able to articulate that. And what are your strengths and what are you bringing to the table? And, be clear, on what you're not bringing, and areas where you would, have a learning curve. And I'm not saying that, you go in and say, I'd be terrible at this part of the job. But I think it's fine to say, look, that's not something I've had a lot of experience in, but here's an area where I have had experience, and that's going to help me, ramp up very quickly in this new area.
What do you specifically look like in the candidates that you hire in your teams? And more specifically, what soft skills are you looking for in a candidate?
For me, the most important thing when I'm hiring someone, or when I'm coaching someone else who's going to hire someone, is looking for fit, right? Looking for the right attitude, the right kind of cultural makeup, to your point, like the soft skills, because hard skills change and evolve all the time. And so, yes, I want someone who has like the core set of hard skills that, we're looking for, this, particular job. But that said, what I'm looking more for is like runway and potential. And, are you the right fit for the organization? And when I ask that question about, tell me about your development needs, I actually don't care what you say. And I've said this to candidates. Look, whatever you say, it's really irrelevant. It's not about what you answer. It's about having the self-awareness to have a good answer. And these answers of, oh, I'm perfectionist, or oh, I'm always early, or, if someone gives me that kind of answer, I'm going to listen. And then I'm going to say, okay, so what else? And tell me something that's not a hard, I don't want to hear about that you need to learn more about finance or we all do. I want to hear about a leadership trait that you're working on developing. And again, we all have them, and they change over time. What I would have said to you yesterday versus what I would have said 2 years ago is different in terms of the development need that I'm working on. And that's the point, is having that self-awareness. So, that's what I would think about if I was a candidate going into a discussion with a recruiter or with my manager is, okay, what is it that I think I either get feedback on or is holding me back, that I need to develop more of, from, an emotional, an EQ standpoint, right? From those soft skill standpoints, because that's what's going to distinguish you from others.
I love what you just said, simply because, to the point we discussed about sharing about a weakness, what's important is to show that you have self-awareness, that you self-reflect, that you're humble enough and loyal enough to communicate about where you are in your personal journey. It builds trust with the person sitting in front of you. If you're able to say, listen, I struggle to wake up in the morning, but I've obviously share things that you've overcome. Like, don't share something that you're still struggling with. That's a deal breaker. But if it's something that you've been working on to improve for the past, months or years, and now you're at a good place, and you prove that you're early to the interview, you prove, that you're early on the next rounds of interviews, and you have other recommendations that prove that, you can share your journey of self-improvement. What triggered you to notice that, that was a problem in your life? What prompted you to take the necessary action? How was the whole emotional process like? What were the different steps in the, self-improvement process? At the end of the day, as you rightly explained, the person in front of you is not expecting a perfect answer, because maybe themselves, they haven't solved that, and they can be inspired by your answer. And if they have solved it, or they've never had that issue, maybe it will remind them their spouse, their kids, or themselves when they were younger. So it will allow you to bond with your interviewer at an emotional level, and that is huge and pivotal in an interview process, because that is what will have them say, I like this person, I want them in my team, I trust them.
I only really look at the soft skills, and I really think that's the most important thing. For me, I'm looking for someone who is hardworking, is honest, direct, right? And has a love of learning, because again, the world is just changing so quickly. You've got to constantly be updating your skills and updating what you do and learning new things. I think it's also important to be, and I think we've seen this come to light even more over the past 2 years, to be really resilient, tenacious. So don't give up what's important to you and what you're looking for in your life. And I think the more you can show that and give me some examples of that, that's really going to make you stand apart from everyone else.
Gretchen, I remember something really important that you've mentioned at the very beginning of this interview. You said that people they cannot guess what you want. And obviously, whether at work or in life, people cannot guess what the other party wants. So that's why communication is very important. Now, tell me, why do you think it's important for you in the workplace to be very clear about each other and understand each other's vision?
Yeah. Well, I really hope for the majority of people that that's part of the culture of the company where they work, in terms of having managers give feedback and having, kind of processes in place that provide you with opportunities to to give and receive feedback, and then to have, plans for your career. We're all there for the same reason, which is for the company to be successful, right? And so if you think about that, then really, why wouldn't you want to be super clear about, what are the objectives? How are we going to know we got there, right? What does success look like? What are those metrics, if you will, that will kind of prove to us that we got there? And, I think that if you're not making clear your expectation to your manager, then I'm not sure how you can have really any realistic expectation that they're going to do something to help you. Why not just be clear and have that conversation with your manager and really get an understanding for yourself of what are the things you need to achieve? What are your objectives? Okay, if you achieve that, how is that going to help you move on, to the next phase of your career? People often say to me, well, I don't know what my career path is. Like, where's the paper that tells me my career path? And I don't know what to do next. I just know that I want to, my goal is to be, CMO one day or whatever. It's okay that you don't know what next. The point is to have the conversation. So I wouldn't, don't be afraid of having the conversation just because you may not have the answer. The job of your manager and the leaders in your organization is to give you that feedback. Stand up for who you are, and tell yourself as you're walking into, these conversations, you have a right to be there, and you are a valuable member of the organization. And as such, the organization, has a responsibility to you. And part of that is to, kind of grow and develop you as a person and in your career.
What about when it's the manager that is not clear about their vision and their expectation towards their employees?
If you have that conversation with your manager and it's not successful, you don't see it moving forward, and or even if you do, I think it's important that you build relationships in other places in the organization, right? So if you are seeing that your manager is not supportive and doesn't want to have the conversation, you've tried to build a relationship with other senior people in the organization, it's not working. You look around, your colleagues are miserable. They're not, low engaged. Like, maybe you should be thinking about, opportunities somewhere else and proactively, look for a company, a different company, right? Or a different type of work. But I think if you're not at least proactively thinking about it and having those expectations, you might not even realize that you're not having these conversations and you're not going anywhere and you're not feeling fulfilled until it's, gotten to a point where it's more difficult because you've waited a really long time and you may be at that point then super frustrated. You're worth more and you should be valued at work. If that's not what you're feeling, then I think you should express why you're not feeling valued and work with your manager on ways to make that better.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important for professionals to remember that before being a professional in a suit, they are individuals, and individuals are humans, and humans have feelings. And so the instant you remember that, you start getting in tune with your feelings throughout the day and understand, how does this job feel? If it feels right, go for it and work really hard to get to where you want. And you're a great example of that, Gretchen. If it doesn't feel right, then as you shared, raise a conversation, 1, with yourself, and 2, with your bosses. And then if it does not work, explore, right? Explore other stakeholders in the company that could be a better fit. But if it does not work either, please remember that you're not defined by your current position, by your current company. You can always explore. You can work at a competitor. You could work in a different job in a, in the same industry, or you can even shift industries.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, Wafa, and you hit on it, is top performance and bringing your A game is like the ticket to entry, right? So, all this conversation that we've been having about your growth and career and all that, that is based on a premise of performance. And so I think that's the first thing that we all need to be conscious of, right?
You talk about bringing your A game at the office, and that's obviously a given. It's really important to perform well, to be taken seriously and at work. In terms of your health and wellness routine, whether we're talking about eating, sleeping, personal life, your work life hygiene, your self-care routines, what's your secret, Gretchen, to be always on top of your game?
You have to ruthlessly prioritize. If there's anything that you have to do, it's that. You've got to manage your time and ruthlessly prioritize, because you will not, make peace with it now. You will not get through your entire inbox. It's not possible. To make peace with the fact that I will never have zero unread messages because I get too many. And so it's about prioritizing whose messages, come to the top of my inbox, whose messages do I respond to, instantaneously, which other ones wait maybe till the end of the day, right? You've got to prioritize. And that has to do with your family or your personal life too, right? If there's, going to your workout or going to play sports or, whatever is hugely important to you, you have to prioritize. You have to make time for it. Right. And if you want it to get done, put it on your calendar, because we all know we kind of follow our calendars religiously. So if something's important to you, put it on your calendar, because then one, it will take that space in your life and you will do it. And it's probably beneficial if you're not a big fan of sleeping, because there are not enough hours in the day. Personally, I am a big fan of sleeping. So I have to kind of reorganize some other things so that I can get my 7 hours of sleep. No, but seriously, I think you cannot ignore your personal health and well-being, your family, your, faith, your community, the things that are important to you, you can't ignore, because at the end of the day, as much as we, are all in at our jobs and love what we do, your, and fill in the blank brand, X brand is not coming to your funeral or to your wedding. I mean, like, it's just it just kind of puts it in perspective, right? When you think about something like that, like, so remember that when you're thinking, how do I balance my personal life and work? And it's sometimes hard to remember that, but you do need to remember about your personal health and well-being.
I love that. Very important. Everyone has a different version of balance, but I loved how you said that it was just equal to 100 for everyone. So if you need your 8 hours of sleep, get them, and then see where else you can cut back.
Exactly. I think that's the key point, Wafa, right? It's knowing what you're willing to cut is really the key to the prioritization, because, often we just pack our to-do lists, right, with more and more and more stuff. You need to really be a clear thinker about what are those different elements that are important to you, right?
Now, Gretchen, thank you so much. I have one question. When you hear the word coaching, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
It's a gift. We're all so involved in what we're doing, and we take such a personal, obviously, right? It's our lives. We take such a personal stake in it that sometimes it's hard to have that step back and that objectivity that we need to be successful. And having a coach gives us that mirror. And it not only gives us the mirror in terms of a reflection on areas that we can improve, but the coach is also there to then help you make those improvements, right? And it's a safe kind of, I'll say, relationship in which you can have that back and forth on, okay, what's working, what's not. So I tried this and that didn't work. That is an amazing opportunity for anyone. And so what I would say is, if you have the ability to get a coach, you should absolutely do that. And I think there are, both formal coaches like what Wafa is doing and what others do, where they are, experts and they're certified and they're giving you really good career and life advice. And then you're kind of playing it out and coming back and getting more feedback. That's a hugely valuable exchange. I think you also should think about, your responsibility in terms of coaching, right? Like I'm not a certified coach and I don't do it for a living, but I do view that as a senior executive, it is my role to coach and mentor and sponsor, talent and people that are, coming up through the ranks. And it's a different role than having an external coach. So it's different elements, but I think you need all of that to be successful. So availing yourself of coaches and feedback and, seeking it out from managers and, having some of these awkward conversations and forcing yourself to network, right? These are all things that you've got to do to be successful in, kind of the macroeconomic environment that we're living in today.
Thank you so much, Gretchen, for all your precious advice, sharing your journey, incredible journey with us today. What's the last word that you want to add to this chat?
What I would say is thank you, Wafa. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I'm excited to hear more about the people and the experiences that you're having coaching and working with these millennials and getting them kind of jump started in their career. I think that's super exciting. And, for anyone that wants to chat further or reach out, please feel free to, connect with me over LinkedIn. And I really look forward to staying in touch and seeing what comes next.
Thank you so much. Yes, everyone, I will put Gretchen's LinkedIn information in the description box below. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.